A nudnik, a real bum.
The bad clowns freak him out.
This is the theme song of the podcast of the movie of the uncle of the nephew who's a dreamer and you cannot keep a job. We watch the movie by the minute and we talk about what's in it, but we want it to be different, so we added 2 more seconds. It's UHF 62.
60 second, UHF 60 second.
I know.
Everybody out there, this is UHF 60 second. This is the podcast where myself, David Johnson, and my co-host,
Jonathan Carlisle,
talk about the 1989 French film UHF for 62 seconds at a time, except for way longer because we talk about it for a while, but what we talk about is 62 seconds of the movie UHF at a time. And today we are talking about minute 17, and today we're going to be talking about minute 17 with Sean. Welcome, Sean.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I missed that. Does Sean have a last name?
No, he does, but I don't know. Is it Germain or is it actually just German?
German, Sean. German.
Is that French?
Fine. Yes.
Yes.
No, it's not French.
Yes, it's not. Yes, no.
It probably will be French by the time we're done with this episode. We'll find a way to make it French, as we do all things.
Miss Angerman, if you're nasty.
Is that nasty or?
It's French.
For those of you who have no idea what is happening in minute 17, Jonathan will fill you in.
Oh, okay. Yes. So this lady that we have just met in our last minute is yelling at us, and I believe we also get to club a baby seal.
Whoa! Yeah, we do.
I'll do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, I'm playing a fun game on this episode, which is prepare your notes well in advance and don't look at them when it gets close to recording time. So I was about ready to correct you that the seal clubbing was in the next minute, but you are indeed correct, Jonathan.
We will definitely get to that, but we probably don't want to start there. That's a little heavy. Instead, we'll just start with the yelling lady.
This is an interesting way to start off with your new boss, and probably lucky that it is the new manager of the station is as agreeable as George is, because usually saying that the job really sucks is not really kind of the best introduction, but it seems like this woman has no more patience. She's been through it and she just doesn't care anymore.
I kind of get that feeling like they've changed bosses so many times that those that are still at the station, like they know how things go and they basically run the station. So I think she's not too afraid of anybody else coming in at this point.
Right. Yeah. She figures she's going to outlast anyone who comes in. And I imagine this has been kind of through the ringer. Like, I guess like she's probably just seen a series of loser nephews of poker playing uncles that have won this station as it gets passed around, through various poker games, and just this is the boss du jour, and this is a no nonsense lady, and she's not having it.
I really like the idea now that you said this, that this was the first time that Uncle Harvey had played poker with this particular group of gentlemen. So everybody at the poker table had owned this station at one point in time, and they're like, we got to get somebody new in this game so that we can offload this UHF station.
Yeah, one of those things like when you lose, they're like, yeah, we need some fresh blood. The reverse ringer. Instead of like winning big at the end, they're like, all right, we got to make this guy feel good, or we got to make him feel bad. We'll beat him a couple rounds so he's down, and then we'll get a really big pot and, get him to go all in and then throw in the station. So he just goes away happy. And then by the time he realizes what we've stuck him with, it's too late.
Yeah.
When we see him afterwards, he's talking about it, and he's like, "Oh, I couldn't get rid of it. I got stuck with this station." I guess imagine like you reach a point where like once you get the radio station, you're going to win every hand from there on out because no one wants this thing.
Yeah, that's true. Thinking back on it, he does seem to be familiar with the station as soon as he comes back into the party with Esther. He's like, he knows all about the station, and he knows he's got to dump it right away. So. But yeah, maybe there was another new guy at that poker game that they were trying to dump it off on, and it didn't work out, so he got stuck with it. Every time they play poker, somebody knows they have to go home with the station.
Yeah, actually, when I was in high school, my circle of friends, we had a gag gift that so every someone different person got it every time it was someone's birthday. You'd get this gag gift, and then you just had to pass it on to the next person the next birthday, and it just kind of went around the circle. And I imagine this station is kind of like that. And at this point, past the prime of UHF broadcasting. So
yeah, especially this station, as they're playing so many reruns. It sure would be great to get some news shows, some live shows. Yeah.
That's next minute, isn't it?
Oh,
chill out. Let's talk about this minute. These 62 seconds.
Yeah.
So the first thing she says is. Basically, she was hoping to be bumped up to news, which is really her forte.
Forte. She says forte. I guess she's French.
Yeah, that is the French pronunciation.
Yeah. Well, actually, the French pronunciation of that would, in this case, would be fort. So she's saying it wrong in all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
This is one, I kind of looked it up. This is one of those weird things where the actual correct pronunciation, in this sense, is fort, but we are all used to hearing forte for this meaning, where forte is actually a reserve just for the musical notation forte, meaning strong or loud. But we're also used to it that even the correct version sounds wrong and will probably just eventually be wrong because nobody will use that anymore. And I think it's kind of a joke that she doesn't necessarily sound like a newscaster.
Though she doesn't sound bad. I imagine you've talked about the wonderful Fran Drescher. Just
only a little bit.
She's giving a more natural performance. I think, if people are familiar with Miss Drescher through The Nanny, where she plays up the accent and the voice a little bit more. So it's not that bad. I could see her doing news. And besides, it's a UHF station. Who's watching anyway?
Well,
I didn't say I'd hate it, but I just thought, your typical newscaster, and this is their first meeting with her, and she's just like, ah.
But I was wondering. She says, news is really more her forte. Has she? Is that a self-proclaimed? Does she have any journalism background or any kind of credentials, or has she just decided that is really more her forte?
I'm guessing.
I have no idea.
I'm thinking like a correspondence school. Like something you find on the back of, on the back of a matchbook.
Yeah, that seems about right.
AC refrigeration / truck driving / news correspondence school.
Like the Atlas bodybuilding type thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The back of the comic book. Are you tired of getting beat up by bullies on the beach? Well, then learn to become a broadcaster.
Are you tired of being a receptionist? Learn to be a journalist.
Well, it looks like she's reading a romance novel or something. There's something on the desk that I can only imagine that's what that is.
Yeah.
It could be some pamphlet or brochure for something else, but
this is an office that she's in, and there's so much going on. But I particularly want to mention when we get the shot of who we'll find out is Pamela, sitting here at the desk reading George and Bob. It's like a gardening trellis behind her.
Oh, the lattice, yeah.
The lattice, yeah.
That'll feature prominently in the next couple of minutes, and it's an interesting... so they built this set. The set, I believe, is inside of the mall where they did most of the sets and the soundstage stuff in Tulsa. Is that right, Jonathan?
I believe so, yes. Inside the station.
This is a built set. So that was a choice that was made. Maybe it was a budgetary choice, but that was a choice that was made to have this lattice work in there.
The same choice that every high school makes when they start off their
drama clubs,
their stage building.
Yep.
Well, yeah, you have to start somewhere.
But then she gets to meet Bob, and everything's fine. So is this like the breaking point? Is this typically where someone would just be running out the door, but George is just like, well, we'll just roll with it?
Yeah, well, in George and Bob are just like frozen in their steps. They're not moving. They're not blinking. They're just staring at her while Pamela rants for about, just 20 seconds to lead off this segment of the film, capping it off with, this job really sucks, and a sigh. And then George is just like, and this is my friend Bob. Like, as if she had just said hello and none of that rant ever happened. You know, he's just bringing it back down to earth. But yeah, I guess I imagine at some point, yeah, this is usually the point where most of the loser nephews just turn around and say, Uncle, you can keep your station. But not George, not all George. He's got stick-to-itiveness.
He's got imagination.
He's not going to be scared off that. He does have that, yeah.
They've also worked a lot of sucky jobs, so there might be part of them that's just like, yeah, I'm okay. I can get that.
Yeah, he's not being picked up by the collar and thrown off the premise, so, you know, it's been worse.
So it's a step up, yeah.
Maybe that's why they're just staring at her. They're just waiting for her to like get behind the desk or get out behind the desk and push them around. They're like, oh, okay, great. That's not happening.
Yeah, if I haven't been removed, I guess I'm staying.
Right, yeah. I don't see George as the type who has quit any job ever. Like he's always been fired, and you're gonna have to physically remove him from the premises because he's not leaving on his own.
Yeah, even the job that we did see him get physically removed, he was still wearing the uniform like the entire rest of the day. He just doesn't quit.
Now, that brings me to something that I am interested in here. We know that this is day 2 so far. So after this Pamela introduction, we cut to the Crazy Ernie, which we need to talk about, and then we see George and Bob at the desks, and they seem pretty settled in. Do we think there is a time jump in this minute, or is this still the same day?
I'm going to say it's the same day, just based on their introduction. Okay. That every maybe they pause for a few seconds between each thing, and then just immediately move into the next thing. So after she met Bob, and they said their little haha, and then they took a little tour, and then they just kind of paused for a second, and then they just sat down and got right to work.
All right.
I imagine there has been some passage of time, enough for Bob and George to get settled in, and now they're starting to look through paperwork and files and whatnot. But I would think it was the same day.
Yeah, and they are wearing the same clothes, which leads me to believe that it's the same day. But they probably don't have a lot of suits though either. So
yeah,
just
I would say that doesn't mean much for George, but if Bob's wearing the same clothes, I think that would tell me the same day. I think Bob's with it. Bob's responsible.
Right on.
Bob would be changing his tie at least.
Now, I thought it was interesting. So we see behind Bob, there's a television in the corner, but it's not on and it's not tuned to the station. Like I would think most media companies, TV stations, radio stations, what have you, in their lobby, they're showing what they're showing. They're kind of showing the product. They'd have the station on. But then again, I could also see where Pamela's they probably started that at some point. That's why the television's there, and then Pamela was just like, I can't watch this crap. I can't watch all these reruns.
And it's also not the same television that we see Crazy Ernie come on.
That's true.
So it's not like they just turned it on and boom, there he was. I'm not even sure.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we have to decide how that happens.
Yeah.
Well, why are we even seeing Crazy Ernie?
Yeah. I want to say one of the great things about this movie, and something that there's no way they could have known or planned for when they were making it back in 1989. But here in the 21st century, so I have a reasonably current flat LCD screen, and as the current televisions do, it's got a very thin bezel. It's pretty much all screen. And so when they do these things, like when they show the commercial, when they show a close-up of a television, my TV turns into a giant old television because I can barely see the bezel around the screen, and the whole screen just looks like an old TV. And we get it at the beginning of the commercial here, or is it the whole commercial? Yeah. No, yeah, just the beginning where it shows the set around Cousin Ernie's commercial. And there's a couple other times where it shows close-ups where the whole screen is a TV set, and like my giant LCD turns into this giant 1980s tube.
That should be happening more often. Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of surprised, like, where does this seal come from? Because nothing else in this commercial gives the impression of any kind of budget. So are we to think like they spent all the money on the seal, or is this like...
Well, that's... Okay, let's get into it. Yeah. So the seal, in the commentary, Weird Al says, that they wanted to get a harp seal, a baby harp seal, for the joke to really work, but they ended up with, I don't understand. But they ended up with what, in his words, a quote unquote circus seal. That's what they had to do the gag with, was a circus seal. It was just not the kind of seal that Al wanted. So he had in mind a harp seal. I couldn't figure out. I tried to figure out if there was some famous incident of a harp seal being clubbed to death. I couldn't come up with anything. I asked my wife, just kind of idly wondering aloud, kind of said it out loud in her vicinity, why a harp seal? And her immediate reply, without skipping a beat, was because Crazy Ernie's harping on everybody to buy his cars, so a harp seal. But I don't know that that's it. But that's kind of funny.
Yeah,
but
can't imagine Weird Al's just like, dang it, I wanted a harp seal to make this pun really work, although it's not a spoken pun, so nobody will really know.
It's just an understood
except for David's
pun.
wife
Yeah.
far in the future.
Yeah.
Well, there's some questions that Ernie himself poses and never answers, like when he's introducing the car emporium, which he says an emporium is a giant supermarket of cars. So I'm wondering, first of all, do you think Crazy Ernie wanted to call it Crazy Ernie's Giant Supermarket of Cars? And somebody's like, no, you got to shorten that down.
The sign painter charges by the letter.
Right.
All right, what's a shorter word for giant market of cars?
And then he says that everybody's asking him, where'd you get all those cars? But he never answers that. So I'm guessing he's probably got some channel, some underground channel that he's getting all these cars from, and somebody gave him a seal. So he's like, I'm going to put it in my commercial. What else am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying that you think that one of the cars got traded in with a seal in the car?
Yeah, I like that.
Just one of the trade-ins, and it was like a circus folk, just like a runaway seal from.
Oh, maybe all the clowns like scattered, and just there was a seal sitting in the back
left
seat.
their seal, because the folks that club seals, you do it for the fur. It has to be like a baby that
the
you
seal
get the
skin,
nice seal fur. Right, and you need a blunt instrument because you don't want to break the fur.
goods,
if you shoot it, you end up with a hole in your coat or your scarf or whatever. So, this is not. Not that I'm an expert, but I don't think this is the kind of. Not that you should club any seal, but if you were, this isn't the kind of seal you do it with.
Well, no, you do it with
Although
a
you
harp
also-
seal, apparently.
A harp seal, apparently. And Ernie is very proud of the wide range of colors of cars. I mean, he's got red cars, he's got green cars.
Well, he's got enough cars to choke a camel.
Which is that a thing? I mean, is that a phrase that like people say? Maybe it's like a Midwest thing, because outside of this movie, I've never heard that.
I looked that up. I don't know that I've heard people say that, outside of referencing this movie. But I guess choking a camel is maybe less common, but I guess people say choke a horse. I don't know that I've heard that either, but that's what the internet said.
Okay.
That's where it comes from. I did find a scientific study where they were studying youth camels or young camels that were choking. It's called esophageal obstructions. And I don't know why they were studying this, unless it's just some crazy thing where these young camels are all choking all the time. But yeah, the foreign objects that they were choking on were plastic bags and sheets, rags, and plastic balls. I guess they were just eating everything and choking.
None of them were choking on cars, though, huh?
No, not choking on cars. Not even choking on parts of cars unless they were eating some of the seat finishes or something.
So that's more like a goat thing. I could see a goat choking on a car.
Yeah, but maybe they chew it up enough, and their throats, their necks aren't as big, so maybe a camel just thinks, I can get this down, no problem. And you get a whole bag in there, and then start wheezing.
So their eyes are bigger than their throat, you think?
Yeah.
That's what happens with the camels.
I want to talk about the actor playing Crazy Ernie for a moment. We're
right, let's
told
get into
in the
it, Crazy
commentary again, Crazy Ernie, by Al that this is John Cadenhead. He says, we should all know who that is. I did not know who that was.
You didn't know who that was?
No. Did you? Are you familiar with John Cadenhead's other work?
Not at all.
Other work?
Yes.
I did look up on IMDb, and I'm not sure how much other work there was. But
Well, there was
He was in an Ernest
one
movie,
piece of work.
so-
Yeah, there's some Ernest movies, but there was also something that he directed and produced that came out in 1993. That was by the name of. Are you familiar with this title that I'm about to read?
I just looked it up, but please, you go right ahead. You can say this title.
Single alien seeks horny Earth girl.
All right.
Which he was both producer and director.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Who was the writer?
I'm not even sure if it has a script, Jonathan.
Or you don't have to write a script for that.
I'm looking at IMDb, and there's no one wanted to take credit for writing this gem. But I'll admit I was not familiar with the range of John Cadenhead's CV as it was. Yeah.
So it's interesting. We learn. I can't remember where we learned, but we do learn somewhere that Crispin Glover had wanted this role very much. He was invited by Jay Levy, the director, and Weird Al to be in the film. And after he read the script, he said the only role that he had any interest in playing whatsoever was that of Crazy Ernie. Weird Al says in one place that he couldn't afford to fly out Crispin just for this little bit part, or another place, Weird Al said that he didn't see Crispin as Crazy Ernie, but so we were denied a Crispin Glover Crazy Ernie, which is pretty sad actually in my book.
Yeah, I think he would have had his own take on the character. I think it would have been very different, but interesting, but just in a different way. Yeah, interesting that you say about just the expense to fly him out, because this is a separate little film. I mean, it's a commercial. They could have taped it anywhere. I would think any place where you have a lot of cars, cars and a seal, you could have filmed that.
Well, they actually did, which is kind of funny because also on the commentary we find out that the first shot that we see with just John Cadenhead, that is actually in Tulsa. Mm-hmm. I don't have the address in front of me, but it's at the early Ernie Miller Pontiac in Tulsa.
That's at 4700 South Memorial Drive in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is now the Mark Miller Buick GMC dealership, and you can call them to get a car at 918-770-4364.
There you go. But the shot with the seal was actually filmed in L.A., so they had to get John Cadenhead. I don't know where John Cadenhead originally hailed from, so I don't know if he had to go to Tulsa or if he was already in Tulsa and then had to go to L.A. for the seal shot. I don't know. So the seal was the better deal there.
Nice.
But that seal is really into it. I assume the seal doesn't know English.
I hope not. Unless like clubbing, quote unquote, is, a euphemism. Like it means something different in seal language, something good, I hope.
Speaking of that, I did find in my internet travels, there is in Juneau, Alaska, there is a comedy troupe called Club Baby Seal.
Oh.
So it's kind of dark comedy, I guess. I don't know. I didn't really get a chance to sample their wares, but I think they've got a few shirts you can buy. But this,
really?
I honestly don't remember if the website was updated. This might have been from like 2009 or something like that, but it exists.
All right. One final thing about Crispin, I find it very interesting that he would pass on anything at this point in time. So this is probably being filmed in 1988. And I'm pretty sure this is kind of like the height of his legal embattlement with Steven Spielberg, where he was kind of being blackballed from Hollywood in general. So it's a little surprising that he passed on anything, but that's what you do when you're a true auteur,
Yeah, I don't necessarily see him shying away from living on the street if he has to, or living in front of Steven Spielberg's house if he has to.
Well, I could see him. I haven't met him, Mr. Glover, but I could see he's the kind of person that he would read a script, he would kind of latch on to a part and say, if I'm not playing that part, then I'm not interested in anything else.
If I don't get to harm a mammal, then forget it.
Yeah, it's about the art.
I don't want to deny anybody else the chance to talk more about killing seals, but are we?
Oh, I do have one thing about this commercial. So this is a commercial that you're watching on television that was taped previously or you assume that it's not just a live commercial. Every time you see a commercial, it's live. He says in that commercial, the deal is for the next hour. And if nobody comes down, he's going to club the baby seal in the next hour. So he's potentially clubbed that baby seal before this commercial has ever made it to television.
Yeah, I suppose.
See, I assume that's one of those things, like, I've seen commercials where they say, like, call in the next 15 minutes and you'll get a special deal. And they just say that to get people to call when anytime you call, you're really getting the same deal.
I would hope so.
Or maybe he knows, I don't know much about the advertising biz, but maybe he's booked, he knows what time the commercial is going to air. So even if it's not live, he knows, well, I paid for the 2:15 break during this show. So between 2:15 and 3:15, if nobody comes down and buys a car, not that I want to, but I said I was going to do it, and this seal is not going to make a liar out of me. So I have to. I don't want to, but I have to, kind of thing.
Yeah,
but
the public made me do this.
Yes, you by not buying the car are making me do this. I didn't want to do it. Look what you made me do. But I know I assume that he's not actually going to club the seal. It's just trying to get people.
I don't know. He is crazy.
He is crazy.
You know he'll do it. Yeah.
I mean, people do ask him where he got all those cars, and he doesn't tell them. So
that we do go back to George mentioning about all these reruns. It'd be nice to have some live shows. I don't know. I don't have anything to say about this except that Weird Al. We've already seen Mr. Ed. So do you think UHF 62 was running in the laboratory when we saw Mr. Ed, or was that some other channel?
I think that I think a couple things. I think I'm split right down the middle on that. I think that Philo had that on to monitor what the station was doing, but I also think that Philo did not have that on to monitor what the station was doing. Philo had that on for research purposes. He was trying to find out more about Earth culture. So I'm very split on that. It could be either one. I guess it could be both.
I think it's the state. I think he's doing research on Earth culture by watching the station.
Do you think that's why he's working there?
So yeah, I think that's.
Or do you think that he's working there / living there just because it's a good place to have all that tech and nobody questions you?
Well, George questions him right off the bat. Well, what are you doing here? That's like the first thing out of his mouth.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, but we've already established George is not like
imposing
other loser nephews. He's different.
Well, in case he does step out of line, he's already shocked him with 60,000 volts anyway. So
yeah, I don't know.
He knows how to back off him just a little bit.
He's established his dominance through electricity. So we talk about George is complaining that the station is just running reruns. I have cable, like pretty basic cable. I don't have like a super extended package. I have at least 2 or 3 stations that's all they do. They just do old reruns because I'm guessing it's dirt cheap, that you don't have to sell a lot of advertising or expensive advertising to make money if your programming costs next to nothing. I mean, a few years ago, I watched the entire run of the old show Soap, and then the spin-off Benson.
Are you telling me right now, Mr. Sean Germain, that Benson is a spin-off of another television show?
Yes.
Huh.
You did not know that?
No. I'm a little shooken at the moment.
Yeah, Benson was originally the butler, I guess like butler / chef for a family that on a sitcom, a half-hour sitcom that was a takeoff on daytime soap operas, and that was a show called Soap. And then he left early on, like I think after I think it was on for 5 seasons, and I think Robert Guillaume left like after the 2nd season, and I'm not sure what the timing was, if there was a break in between, but he left pretty early in the run and went on to become the butler of the governor on Benson.
Huh.
Yeah.
Crazy. Wow.
That's how that happened. Yeah. So yeah, Benson is a spinoff of another sillier show, a much better show in my opinion. Come at me, Benson fans.
Well, so I mean, based on this, obviously, we'll see in the rest of the film how the decision to have more live shows turns out. But I don't know. I think maybe there should be some more stations playing reruns because I did not know this. And now I want to watch Benson. I don't want to watch Uncle Nutsy's Clubhouse.
Nobody else does.
But I like the tease at the end of these at the end of these 62 minutes or 62 seconds, because I expect first time watching this when George is saying, "Well, why are we showing all these reruns? I'm sure we could use some more live shows." Something like, and I expected it's going to now fade out into George's imagination, and we're going to see another parody, George doing something else. That's kind of a takeoff on something in George's imagination.
Yeah.
But we get interrupted by an "oh no" from the other room.
Yep, not yet. We gotta. This movie paces itself. We've talked about the restraint of this movie, that it doesn't just give you everything all at once.
Yeah, right. Because when I think of Weird Al Yankovic, I think restraint.
That's weird. That's what every guest says.
Well, let's put a pin in this, I guess, so we can find out what the problem is that Pamela Finkelstein is gonna bring to our attention next episode, and we'll be back
after 2 years.
In the meantime, nobody use iTunes at all.
No, whatever you
do, don't use iTunes. You do go to MySpace and find us on MySpace. And go to UHF60second.com and read about the ongoing adventures of the big boy. And also, Sean German, where can listeners go to find out more about you and your projects?
Sure. Well, one place you can go, or the one place you can go, is catandshawn.org. And that's CAT, like the animal, and Sean, as in Sean German, catandshawn.org. And there I have links to all my podcast stuff. And one of those links will take you to Spinal Tap Minute. Speaking of Pamela Finkelstein, Spinal Tap Minute, where my wonderful co-host Heidi Bennett and I covered the movie This Is Spinal Tap, 1 minute at a time, 60 seconds, kind of similar to what you're doing here, but with a different movie and a different number of seconds. But we got to talk about the wonderful Fran Drescher playing Bobby Fleckman. So if you're watching this and you're like, hey, that Fran Drescher, she's quite an actor. Has she acted in other stuff? The answer is yes, and we talked about it. So there you go. Spinal Tap Minute.
Excellent.
I just wish that was the intro to all these shows. Did they do this? Yes, and we talk about it.
That's pretty much what we do. They did, and we do.
Well, Jonathan, do you want to sing us off?
Sing us off.
Has Weird Al ever done a parody of a Spinal Tap song?
Wow, that would be interesting.
That's pretty meta. I don't know. I don't think so, but I'm kind of missing that now.
The only thing I can think of is he could do a parody of Big Bottoms called Big Bottles, which is a song about 3-liter bottles of soda.
I like it. That seems right up his alley.
And that's why Weird Al gets paid to do what he does, and I do not.
My guess was just Love Sump. Like, it's just a sump pump that works very well for everybody. I don't know. I like yours better.
All right. Well, so listeners, think of your own Weird Al parodies of Spinal Tap songs, and post it on our MySpace page, and visit us on GeoCities.
That's
and
right.
Let us know what you think.
You should tweet those at us, because I actually have not been able to figure out how MySpace works anymore. I tried to post something to it and I can't figure it out. It's such a terrible site.
That's good, because I don't really know how Twitter works either, so you can handle that.
Yeah. And speaking of handles, our Twitter handle is at UHF60second. So tweet us your Spinal Tap Weird Al mashups.
Hashtag Weird Tap.
Hashtag Spinal Al.
Spinal. Spinal Weird and Tap. No. Weird Spinal Tap. Spinal Tap. This is Weird Spinal Tap. I don't know. Never mind. Goodbye.